Pokémon Legends ZA just released, so I spent 30 hours playing through it, exploring this entire amazing story, experiencing the brand new battling mechanics, and discovering the all-new Mega Evolutions. So sit back and enjoy the full experience of Pokémon Legends ZA. Let's get started. The game begins with an ominous cutscene in the center of Lumiose City. There are some shadowy, ominous figures, along with AZ and Floette, who declare that the strongest Mega Evolution user must be found. That all sounds pretty ominous, but we then cut to a shot of our character arriving by train to Lumiose City, a large, modern-looking city filled with trainers and their Pokémon. Just after exiting the train station, we're met by this girl, Tawny. She immediately notices that we're a tourist and asks for our help with recording an advertisement for a local hotel. But before we can film the video, we're interrupted by an advertisement playing on one of the screens. It's during this that we first get to see Jet, the CEO of Quasartico Inc. Besides the fact that she looks like she eats children, Jet also mentions something about an urban redevelopment plan, which doesn't sound sinister whatsoever. The advertisement ends, and it turns out that while we were distracted, I literally got mugged in broad daylight by a Pancham. This kicks off our first mission of the game, Kill Pancham. I mean, get my travel bag back. So we begin an intense, high-speed pursuit, chasing the culprit through Lumiose City. Quick, somebody break that Pancham's legs! Eventually, once we catch up to the criminal Pancham, it took our stolen bag to a pair of trainers, Andy and Andre. Thankfully, our new friend Tawny decides to help us get our bag back by battling the two thieves. To do that though, first we need to choose our starter Pokemon from these three right here. It's an interesting range of Pokemon, so let me know who you're choosing. Like the video if you're choosing Tepig, subscribe if you're an OG Totodile lover, and if you're choosing Chikorita, leave me a comment below letting me know who hurt you and why you make such poor life choices. Ultimately, this decision is very easy for me, as I'm taking Totodile. This guy is just so cute, and I can't wait to see what kind of awesome new Mega Evolution we end up with. So, with our Totodile locked and loaded, our battle with Pancham begins. This is our first taste of the entirely new battling system in Legends ZA. We'll see more and more about how it works as the game goes on. But basically, now you can run around with your Pokemon, and instead of being turn-based combat, now it's all in real time, with each attack having its own cooldown. Totodile, use Tackle Attack, and then steal his wallet. Since we can only use Tackle, it's a pretty basic battle, but watching our Pokemon run after each other is pretty cool. Ultimately, it feels a bit more like the Pokemon anime, so I'm excited to do more battling. After Pancham is tackled into a concussion, we've gotten our first victory, as well as retrieved our stolen bag. And naturally, the thieves will serve the very serious punishment of walking away completely uncontested. Is there really no justice in this world? Regardless, that's our first mission complete. And after an awkwardly long celebratory fist bump with Tawny, we're given our brand new Totodile to keep. Look at this guy. How can you not love this little gator? Since that whole ordeal had taken so much time, including the hours lost to that fist bump, now it had become nighttime. And Tawny says that since we're in a battle zone, it's dangerous since we can be challenged by anyone on the spot. So, to stop Totodile from becoming Toto dead, we begin our second mission, heading for a safe zone. To do this, we begin running through the streets in search of safety. But before we can exit, a waiter just spawns in right behind us. Seriously? I've been in this city for like 3 minutes and I've already been jumped twice. We have to battle the waiter who is packing a team of 2 Pokemon. But now, our Totodile knows Water Gun. While this basically looks like gently spitting water in a Pokemon's face, it's a pretty nice upgrade, helping us to slap around the waiter's Cleffa and Bunnelby for a clean 1v2. With that battle taken care of, now we're clear to find safety and... oh god, I'm about to be jumped for a 3rd time, aren't I? These trainers try to ambush me, but before they get the chance, a Pokemon comes to our rescue, Eternal Floette. Oh, come on. That's just a little flower. What could it possibly hope to... Oh god, no! After witnessing Floette's brutal flower power, those spawn camping trainers flee, clearing us to finally exit the battle zone. Now that we're safe, Tawny decides to take us to her home, Hotel Z. This place looks a little moldy, but it's a very significant place in the story, because not only are those discarded rejects here, but also the owner of the hotel, AZ. Ignoring the completely unsuspicious thing crawling around my bag, this big unit of a man is 3,000 years old. Remember, every Pokemon possesses great power. Oh, really? Even Chikorita? Almost every Pokemon possesses great power. We're given the key to our new hotel room and are told to rest up for the night. And I mean, it is a nice room and all, but why is this written on the wall? What kind of hotel is this? AZ seems a little suspicious about the Zygarde cell following us around, but with our second mission now complete, we wake up on the next day, ready to start our new life in Lumio City. Down in the hotel lobby, Tawny is waiting for us and explains a little more about the ZA Royale that we've been hearing people talk about. Basically, it's a big Pokemon battling tournament where trainers fight to reach the highest rank possible. And if we can earn a high enough rank, we'll be one of Lumiosa's strongest trainers and given the ability to make a wish. So, after agreeing to join the tournament, mostly so I can slap around those criminals from last night, we're welcomed into Tawny's group, Team MZ, with an official team uniform. Currently, we're rank Z, but once we battle enough trainers, we'll be eligible to take on a promotion match, where winning will take us to the next rank. However, these ZA Royale battles can only happen in battle zones after sundown. AZ doesn't say much, but expresses that we need to grow stronger so that we can free Lumiose at last. Despite the apparent looming disaster that AZ's alluding to, after a brief introduction to Leader, another member of Team MZ, we then have to battle against Tawny. It turns out that she has both of the remaining starter Pokemon. Thankfully, the blasphemous Chikorita doesn't know any grass moves yet, so this fight isn't too hard. However, I fear that Tawny could be very dangerous in the near future. For now, Tawny decides to help us out by showing us around and teaching us some important things, like how to combat roll, how to use Pokecenters, and how to access the Pokedex. But after that, it's finally time for us to catch some new Pokemon to help strengthen up our team. By entering these green areas called Wild Zones, we can find various wild Pokemon. This works pretty similar to Legends Arceus, in that we can throw a Pokeball in the overworld, or have our Pokemon weaken it first, then throw a ball. The crouching mechanic also returns from PLA, meaning you can stealthily sneak up on wild Pokemon. So, with the catching tutorial out of the way, Tawny gives us some extra Pokeballs, meaning that I am ready to completely wipe out the entire population of wild Pokemon here. Although, there's only a few Pokemon to catch here, and they're all pretty easy to grab. So, after a very quick catching spree, in no time at all, we had a full team of Pokemon. It's not a very impressive roster, but it could be worse. I mean, at least I'm not this guy talking to his AI girlfriend in the middle of the street. In this game, as you complete the Pokedex, you can claim prizes from the Pokedex Research Lab. And having now caught 5 Pokemon, we're eligible for the first prize. However, when we head up to claim it, the scientist here is crashing out. Seemingly, she's not a fan of the urban redevelopment plan, calling it reckless to just add a ton of wild Pokemon into the city's wild zones. The scientist here is Mabel, who had a pretty strong glow-up from her XY days in Team Flare. Having seen my talent for catching weak, defenseless bugs, Mabel asks for our help in surveying the wild Pokemon of Lumio City. Women in uniform are my big weakness, so obviously I can't say no. In practice, Mabel's research involves collecting Pokemon and completing requests, which will ultimately improve our research level and give us extra rewards. To demonstrate, as a newly promoted level 2 researcher, we're given the TM for Rock Smash as a reward. Anyway, after exiting Mabel's lab, we meet yet another member of Team MZ, Naveen. Although he makes a pretty awful impression, immediately roasting my outfit, before making me wear a fedora. No thanks necessary. Well, good, because I didn't intend on thanking you for making me wear that ugly hat. With that, now the game finally gives us a little bit of freedom to do some exploring. And with our new Rock Smash TM, we're able to access some new areas within the first Wild Zone. But some of these Pokemon are really hard to catch. For example, you can easily miss a throw. The Pokemon can just quickly decide to flee, or you can accidentally roll off the side of a building, shattering both of your ankles on impact. Ultimately though, I was able to catch some cool Pokemon, and it took a while, but after some exploring, I was able to catch all of the available Pokemon from the first Wild Zone, elevating us to Research Rank 4, which also yields us some new TMs. After all of that exploring, with a slightly upgraded looking squad, and our fedora sitting comfortably in the trash, with the sun beginning to set, next we make our way back towards Hotel Z. Once inside, with the opening tutorials and the third mission now behind us, we're ready to start earning some street rep, because it's here that we get a notification on our phone informing us that it's time for our first rank up battle. To earn the next rank, we'll have to take on our first op, Trainer Zach. I'm sure this'll be easy. He's only a rank Z trainer, but aren't you a rank Z trainer too? Shut up. Before we can start a rank up battle, first we have to earn enough tickets by fighting regular trainers. This time around, none of these fights are overly difficult, but the tables do finally turn, as now we're the ones doing the jumping. You can straight up ambush other trainers, which feels pretty cheap. Especially like when I just one-shot this guy's Weedle before he even got the chance to move. Regardless, after 3 wins, it's finally time for the main event as we get to have our rank up fight. Our first opponent is Zach, an Uber driver who's been stuck in rank Z for years. With that said, this is by far our hardest fight yet. Zach opens with a Slowpoke, and this thing is bulky. To prevent our Fletchinder from being completely drowned out, I quickly switch into Mareep, which has a much better matchup. I honestly don't have much of a strategy here outside of just spamming Thundershock and Thunder Wave. But this works out pretty well as Mareep is able to overpower Slowpoke. Thankfully, Zach's second Pokemon is Pidgey, which is also electrocuted into its grave by Mareep, bringing Zach down to his final Pokemon, Pikachu. It's a pretty dangerous Pokemon, but since our Bunnelby knows Mudshot, thanks to some super effective damage, this is pretty straightforward, as the yellow mouse is slapped into the dirt, sending Zach back to the taxi rank and giving us our first promotion match win. Thanks to that, now we're promoted to rank Y, after which we're approached by a new face, Emma. And gee, I wonder if she has anything to do with Mega Evolution. Putting that aside, we learn that Emma is a detective in Lumio City. Hopefully that means she can investigate the Panchan who tried to steal my passport and credit cards. Emma goes on to mention something to Tawny about not having any leads on the person that Tawny is looking for, which all sounds very vague, but before we can get any more details, Emma just runs off like a Naruto ninja. Regardless, with our first promotion match won, this allows us to tick off our 4th mission and head back to Hotel Z, where we celebrate by eating one of the strangest food combinations I've ever seen in my life. After a long sleep, the next day, Tawny takes us out on a field trip to see Prism Tower. Along the way, we learn that by smashing these pink rocks, we can obtain Mega Shards, which I'm hoping can be traded for Mega Stones later on. While traveling to the tower, we also get to explore the second Wild Zone. There are a few new Pokemon here, but nothing too crazy. Although, for the life of me, I could not find the final Pokemon here. Seriously, I ran in circles for about 20 minutes and just had no luck whatsoever. So, after painfully cutting laps of this place for way too long, I decided to just move on and pick up that missing Pokemon later. While sitting down with Tawny to admire the Prism Tower, we're approached by this man, named Vinny, who completely embodies the definition of evil hired goon. Turns out, he works for Quasartico, so you know he's one of the good guys. Isn't he such a friendly face? We can't go inside the tower since it's closed for renovations, so instead, we're tasked with helping Tawny run an errand. Sadly, the game won't let me go and say hello to my friend Malamar just yet, forcing us to head towards our next destination, the Looker Bureau. While on our way, we find a strange looking group of people claiming to be the Fist of Justice. Their leader is this big guy named Ivor, and their goal seems to be releasing the wild Pokemon from wild zones. They'll come up again later on, but for now, we do have to take on one of the underlings in a quick battle, although it doesn't take too long for us to get another W. The third wild zone is also here, and this one is probably the most dangerous one yet. I got jumped by a gang of Pikachu, which thunderbolted me within an inch of my life. Regardless, with a little bit of stealth, it didn't take too long for us to catch the few new Pokemon here. So, with that behind us, next, we move on to the Looker Bureau. Once again, it's here that we run into Emma, who this time asks us if we'll help her with some detective work. Sure, if it'll let me hunt down that thief Pancham and break its little legs, I'd be happy to help. In reality, these investigations are like side quests, and while I won't talk about every side quest in detail, these first three are all pretty significant. The first one has us enter the 4th wild zone to recover a lost ring. This area has some cool Pokemon like Ekans, and we're even able to evolve our Kakuna into Beedrill. This is followed by a big battle against the ring thief Sableye. Beating him allows us to complete the quest, while also adding another Pokemon into our decks. However, something even cooler happened, as it was here that I was able to find my first shiny, Ghastly. Obviously, Gengar is not the craziest looking shiny, but if we can get a mega shiny Gengar, that would be insane. Moving on, the second side quest has us trade a Pikachu, and in return, we receive Heracross. Obviously, we got the much better end of that trade since Heracross is such a beast. Finally, for the third side quest, we have to fight a giant Bunnelby that literally looks like it's been possessed by the devil. This thing is really strong, and this is one of the toughest battles yet. Even with a decent matchup, Totodile almost gets slapped around. Thankfully though, due to a lucky freeze with Ice Fang, we are just able to outlast the nightmarish bunny. After the fight, we learned that that was an alpha Pokemon, similar to the alphas from Legends Arceus. Strong alpha Pokemon will probably be a menace to deal with later on. But for now though, after taking care of those missions and doing a bit of exploring and catching, we'd reached research level 8 and our team was progressing nicely. So next, we headed back to Emma to report our progress. After hearing about our impressive detective work, Emma decides to give us a reward. Although, she doesn't actually give us anything. Instead, Emma just flexes her Mega Evolution right in front of me. Show off. So I still don't have a Mega Bracelet, but at the very least, we do get a notification for our next upcoming promotion match. Before we do that though, first I wanted to do a little more exploring. Mostly, this just involved doing some new side quests and catching some new Pokemon. Importantly though, once it changed to night, I was finally able to find some of the missing Pokemon I was chasing, allowing us to finish up Wild Zones 2 and 4 with some awesome catches in Staryu and Honedge. On top of that, this small hunting session also allowed me to evolve Mareep into Flappy, giving our team a bit of an upgrade. Since it was now nighttime, I decided to head on over to the battle zone to try and earn enough tickets for our next promotion. This is where the game introduces a new mechanic, mini challenges that you can do inside the battle zone to earn even more tickets. Ultimately though, despite winning quite a few battles and getting to evolve myself a Kadabra in the process, I still wasn't able to get enough tickets by the time the sun came up. This means that to rank up, I'll have to wait until the next nightfall. So, in the meantime, I once again got back to exploring, during which our beloved Totodile finally evolves into Croconaw. It may not be as cute anymore, but I still love you, Croconaw. After entering the 5th Wild Zone, I was able to catch a few new Pokemon, including this Alpha Bellsprout, who almost ended my entire career with Vine Whip. Ultimately though, my team was gradually able to wear down the dreaded houseplant, adding another Alpha to my collection. Over the next 30 minutes or so, I was gradually able to hunt down the last remaining Pokemon of Wild Zone 5, as well as get the last tickets I need for our next promotion. Also, by chaining those mini challenges together, I was able to earn so many tickets in one fight. So, comboing those is probably going to be the fastest way to earn promotion tickets. With all that taken care of, now I was ready for our next promotion match. Although, I think I may have explored a little too much, because my team absolutely ripped through this fight. Croconaw handled Yvonne's final 2 Pokemon with ease, giving us a very easy win to claim rank X. By this point, now we've seen some of the core gameplay of Legends ZA, catching wild Pokemon to complete Pokedex challenges, fighting in the battle zones after sundown to try and rank up, as well as clearing side quests during the day. With that in mind, this next section of the game is relatively straightforward as we continue climbing the ranks and exploring the wild zones of Lumio City. Although some of the side quests in this game are actually pretty funny, like entering my Budu in a Budu beauty contest, letting a woman pluck the leaves off of my Skidoo, or going on a cafe date with a gluttonous Slurpuff. During this time, I was also able to complete the 3 side quests that give me access to the 3 Kalos starters. And for helping Mabel with her research, we're even given our choice of Kanto starter. All 3 of these are obviously good choices, but Bulbasaur does look very adorable in this game. So, in quick time, we were able to win our promotion match to rank W. Can I get some W's in the chat? And a short time later, we stepped up to this cafe, ready for our promotion battle to earn rank V. This time, the trainer Rintaro uses all 3 evolved elemental monkeys. It's honestly been so long since I've seen these guys, and I'd entirely forgotten they existed. Although, these fights are definitely getting harder, with this guy using Protect to block my attacks. Ultimately though, by using Aqua Jet to rush up on our enemies, followed by Ice Fang or Bubble Beam, Croconaw continues being an absolute beast. And on our first attempt, we had dominated and claimed yet another rank up, bringing us to rank V. Now we were climbing through the ranks. However, after leaving the cafe, we find Zygarde staring us down, looking like it's ready to square up. We then get a call from Emma, who demands that we don't let Zygarde out of our sight. So, once again, we engage in a high-stakes, high-speed pursuit of Zygarde. Although, once we eventually catch up to it, Zygarde doesn't attack, instead taking us up to the rooftop where this Absol is waiting. Oh no, Keegan's on the roof! How will we ever get up there? AZ, you're like 50 feet tall. Just reach up there. AZ informs us that the Absol in front of us is about to fall victim to something called Rogue Mega Evolution. Apparently, these rogues can only be defeated by another Mega Evolution. So, not only does AZ lend us his Lucario, but we're finally given our very own Mega Ring. I've been waiting so long for this. With our borrowed Lucario, we then have to take on the Mega Absol. But these Rogue Mega fights are crazy. Rogue Megas have a massive HP bar, and both you and your Pokemon are on the battlefield. So, not only do you have to dodge attacks, but you also need to damage the Rogue Mega and collect these colored orbs as they fall. This charges up our Megastone meter, and once that's full, we can Mega Evolve our Pokemon. The Megas only last for a short time, but it allows us to dish out some big damage. Even though this was only our first Rogue Mega fight, it felt like the most intense battle yet. Despite Lucario having a great matchup against Absol, we still took a lot of damage since this thing just hits so hard. Eventually though, Lucario's Aura Spheres and Rock Smashes were enough to break through the Rogue Mega, giving us the win over Absol. As a reward, we're given Absol's Megastone. And on top of that, the Absol that we saved even volunteers to join our team, meaning we've now got access to our first very own Mega. While Zygarde was able to flee, we do get a bit of an explanation as to what actually just happened. See, apparently, wild Pokemon have strangely been Mega Evolving on their own. When this happens, it's known as a Rogue Mega Evolution. We still don't know why that's happening, but we need to find out to help protect the people of Lumio City. So, in search of finding out more about these Rogue Megas, the next day, we decide to tag along with Tawny to meet up with Vinny from Quasartico. Just after leaving the hotel though, Tawny forces us into a battle, since she wants to see our new Mega in action. Tawny still has the 2 other starters, which are now in their middle stage. However, once we Mega Evolve Absol, this fight is a slaughter. Our new ace is incredibly strong, clearing through the rest of Tawny's team pretty quickly. Although she does have a Mega Manectric now, which dishes out some big damage by the time we're able to take it down. Regardless, with Tawny once again taken care of, next we set out towards Quasartico. The company HQ looks very impressive and professional, but their security team is literally just a pair of Dedenne. So how serious can this company actually be? After handling those very intimidating security guards, Vinny emerges from the building. Once he learns that we were the ones to save the rogue Absol, he's incredibly impressed. Apparently, Quasartico have been trying to handle the rogue Megas on their own and are glad to have some extra help. Vinny goes on to say that the ZA Royale was created with the intention of finding the strongest Mega Evolution user, exactly like we saw in the opening cutscene of the game. We still don't know why Rogue Mega Evolution exists or what the cause is, but at least for now, it doesn't seem like Quasartico have evil intentions. Although, when Tawny points out that her and I are just lowly rank V trainers, we instantly receive a notification on our phones, and apparently, our next promotion match will be against Vinny. If we can win, we'll be promoted all the way to rank F, basically skipping most of the alphabet. However, we need 6,000 tickets before we can fight Vinny, and I expect him to be insanely strong. So first, I decided to train my team up by exploring some of the new wild zones that we've just unlocked. And let me tell you, these new areas are treacherous. In Area 8, I was getting mauled by a pack of ravenous ground types. Then, in Wild Zone 10, for some reason, there's an alpha Sharpedo that can walk on land. There's something about a shark moving on land that is just unnatural and downright horrifying. In general, these wild zones are becoming much harder to navigate. The Pokemon are getting stronger and more aggressive too. So while it did take some time, after about 45 minutes of catching, I was able to complete Zone 7 through 10. I was feeling pretty good, besides the fact that I had to sit by and watch as a shiny Pidgey just flew away from me and despawned. Even in Lumio City, my shiny luck is awful. Can I get some Fs in the chat for my first lost shiny of Legends ZA? Putting that misfortune aside, all this catching gave us a nice power boost, as our starter was now able to evolve into its final form, Feraligatr. This guy looks awesome and will forever be one of my favorite Johto Pokemon. On top of that, with a Leaf Stone, our Weepinbell also evolves into Victreebel. So our team had gotten a lot stronger, and our research level was now sitting at level 20. We're starting to get some solid TMs as rewards, so all that catching is definitely starting to pay off. With that, now it was time to turn our attention towards Vinny. Before we can take him on, we need to earn 6,000 tickets, which sounds like a lot. However, by stacking up those battle zone missions, this is actually pretty fast. By sneaking up on trainers and using the right types of moves, you can get so many tickets. In one fight, I was able to earn more than 2,000 from just a single battle. As a result, I was able to earn all of the required tickets with only 5 wins, meaning that as the sun rose over Lumio City, now we were ready to take on Vinny. Immediately, you can already tell that this guy is strong, because not only does he have 4 Pokemon, he also leads with a Houndoom. My only real option here is to switch into Feraligatr, who can thankfully wear it down with an Aqua Jet and Bubble Beam. After that, Vinny follows up with Sharpedo. So I use this as a chance to debut our new Victreebel. Once again, it's a solid matchup, as our glorified houseplant claims the kill with a barrage of bullet seeds. After quickly handling the cute Baneri that follows after that, now Vinny was down to his final Pokemon, Drampa, which he then Mega Evolves, revealing our first new Mega in Lumio City, Mega Drampa. This thing looks wild, but it's also crazy strong. Very quickly, Victreebel is tossed into the trash by a single icy wind. On top of that, Mega Drampa almost took out Feraligatr too. Although, thanks to having super effective Ice Fangs, our Ace Gator just hangs on, finishing the deadly Drampa just in time. With that win, Vinny has no choice but to acknowledge our talents, and we're awarded a huge promotion, basically skipping most of the alphabet straight to rank F. This is so beautiful. Can I get some Fs in the chat to pay respects to this glorious promotion? Somehow, Tawny and her walking bacon were also able to beat Vinny. So, having proven our strength, Vinny invites us inside Quasartico, where we learn a little more about the situation. See, 2 years ago, AZ approached Quasartico, informing them that the city itself is in pain. After further research, it was then discovered that the city was harboring a strange new energy, and only 6 months ago, that energy began causing wild Pokemon to Mega Evolve on their own, which is what we now know as Rogue Mega Evolution. We still don't know who is behind this or why, but Quasartico asks for our help with handling these Rogue Megas. Tawny and I both agree to help, leaving Vinny to return to his day job of being Jet's personal footrest. Oh, and it's also at this point that I realized inside Quasartico, we can exchange our Mega Shards for a small selection of Mega Stones. I'll save my shards for now, but I really want to try out that Mega Drampa if I get the chance. Anyway, once our meeting is finished, Tawny and I go and meet up with Naveen. This time though, instead of giving me a lame hat, Naveen gives me a warning. Apparently, if I keep rising through the ranks, eventually I'll have to fight someone called Canary, who Naveen says is an electrifying streamer. I don't know why, but that description sounds really familiar for some reason. Turns out, Naveen is a total simp when it comes to Canary, and definitely donates his entire paycheck to her stream. But before Naveen's simping reaches critical mass, we're interrupted by a phone call from Vinny, informing us that there are 3 Rogue Megas now on the loose. So, Team MZ mobilizes to take care of this threat. Basically, there are 3 Rogue Megas, and I'll have to team up with a different MZ member for each one of them. And to help us manage, AZ gives us a very important gift for Relegator's Megastone. I am so excited to see this thing. We're able to take on these 3 fights in any order we choose. So I decided to start with Slowbro, since our Mega Absol should have a pretty good matchup here. Just like the last Rogue Mega, this battle is hard. Despite the type advantage, Mega Slowbro is such a tank. Our attacks barely do any damage, and we have to dodge all of its whirlpools. Absol is able to put in a lot of work, but ultimately falls to the giant Mega Bro. Thankfully though, Heracross is able to take over from here, wearing down Slowbro with Pin Missiles and Aerial Aces, ultimately giving us the win. So, we'd claimed another Megastone, and next, I set my sights on the Rogue Camerupt. Mostly because this is my chance to unleash our new Feraligatr. Teaming up with Leader, we approach the Rogue Camel and the fight begins. Honestly, it tanks our hits a lot better than I expected. Regardless, once my Mega Meter is full, we finally get to unleash our new Mega and... what on earth is that thing? It just looks like a regular Feraligatr with a giant toilet seat on its head. In fairness, I know that it's meant to look like a Totodile from the side when the lid's down, but I still feel like they did my boy dirty with this lid. All jokes aside, with the help of our new Mega, we're able to eventually flush the Rogue Camerupt, even though it was a lot harder than I expected. With that, this leaves one more Rogue Mega for us to take care of. However, this one I expected to be much harder. Unlike the last 2, we don't have any type advantage over Mega Victory Bell. Regardless, I still wanted to try and take down this ridiculous looking Pokemon. Although, this fight is hard. Mega Victory Bell is tough, since it throws down poison all over the battlefield and hits you with rapid Bullet Seed fire. It's also really hard to stop your Pokemon from running into the poison. As a result, I really struggled in this fight. Kadabra was slaughtered pretty much instantly, and while Mega Feraligatr did fare a little better thanks to Ice Fang, our inherent weakness to grass means that our Gator doesn't live for very long. Thankfully though, this is where Absol takes over. I'm mostly able to dodge the poison, and once it Mega Evolves, Absol is able to lay down solid damage with Slash and Night Slash. Since our damage output is really low, this is a very long fight, but by the time Absol finally falls, Victory Bell is down into the red. This is still incredibly dangerous, as we end up losing 4 Pokemon. However, ultimately, our own Victory Bell is the one to clutch up, finishing off the Rogue Mega with Poison Jabs, and Bullet Seeds. With that, after a long battle, the third rogue was finally taken down. As a result, we're awarded with the brand new Victory Bell Megastone, which I obviously intend to use. I mean, who could possibly say no to such a cute, handsome little guy? With Zygarde mysteriously watching on, with all 3 rogue megas taken care of, next, we made our way back to Hotel Z to reunite with the rest of our squad. However, before we can enter, we're stopped by Zygarde, who then forces us into a battle. Since Zygarde is only in its 10% form, and our Feraligatr knows Ice Fang, this actually ends up being a very easy win. After the fight, Zygarde approaches us, seemingly with something in its mouth, and while I thought it might just want to play fetch, instead, we're given a pebble. Thanks, I guess? This is all very strange, and it's about to get stranger. Because then, this man named L appears. L explains that Zygarde has chosen me to fight alongside it against the evil at hand. Both L and Zygarde then leave, and that was all very confusing. But now though, we've got our next promotion match on the horizon, and this time, we're taking on Canary. Naveen is absolutely horrified, knowing that I'm about to embarrass his beloved streamer. This quest is pretty long, as not only do we have to collect a whopping 30,000 tickets, but we also have to take part in some strange quiz to try and earn the right to battle Canary. As we all know, content creators are cringe, but thankfully, we have Naveen's help, whose Canary simp knowledge is very useful, allowing us to win the quiz and demand our promotion match. We then have a very weird interaction with Tarragon, Canary's grandfather, who reveals that he sometimes pretends to be Canary with the use of holograms. That is very disturbing information, and I feel like I need an adult. Regardless, while battling Tarragon, we do get to see another new mega form, Excadrill. This thing looks insane, and I can already tell that it's a monster, since Mega Excadrill then proceeded to cut its way through half of my team single-handedly. Eventually though, Excadrill falls, and once Tarragon is defeated, we're finally given the green light to battle against the electrifying streamer, Canary. Her electric types are pretty dangerous, but unfortunately for Canary, I have my son, a giant, fat, poisonous blob. Mega Victory Bell runs rampant on Canary, gradually clearing through her first 3 Pokemon with Bullet Seeds and Poison Jabs. Although Canary's final Pokemon is Electros, which then reveals its new Mega form. It kinda looks like conjoined Electros triplets, but I think this Mega is pretty cool. Despite that, it's no match for our new Camerupt, who wipes through all 3 of those Electros with Bulldoze and Earth Power. So, with our win over Canary secured, we were promoted to rank E. After the loss, Canary even has a heated gamer moment, completely crashing out. The Iono Zone sends their regards, you Temu knockoff. Following that promotion, the next section of the game is pretty straightforward, as next, we've got 3 more rogue megas to take care of. Before that though, I made sure to finish our newly unlocked wild zones. This allowed me to catch a bunch of new Pokemon and gain some valuable levels. But most importantly, I was able to find this Alpha Abomasnow, which I was ultimately able to catch. And our team was about to get some big upgrades, because the Quasartico store now has some new Megastones in stock, including the one for Excadrill. This thing looked awesome when we fought Tarragon, so I wasted no time in spending my shards. On top of that, at the Stone Emporium, by spending almost all of my money, we're able to buy the Megastone for that Abomasnow I just caught. With those new purchases, this means that for the first time, we finally have a full team of Pokemon that can Mega Evolve. This makes us a lot stronger, and makes the upcoming Rogue Mega fights much more manageable. Although, it's still not easy. For example, Beedrill is so fast, shoots spikes everywhere, and spawns in minion bugs on the battlefield. On the other hand, Mega Banette uses clones to hit you with multiple attacks from all angles. Both of these fights were a lot of fun, but ultimately they weren't too hard for our full team of Megas to deal with. The third Rogue Mega for now is a new one, Mega Howlucha. This thing looks awesome, but it's also incredibly dangerous. It's got a move that instantly puts you at 1 HP if it lands, and how Lucha will chase you all over the battlefield. This was by far the closest I've come to losing one of these rogue fights, but thanks to Feraligatr and Abomasnow putting in work with their ice-type attacks, eventually Camerupt is able to finish the fight with Lava Plume, giving us another rogue win and another Megastone. Having slapped around another set of rogues, our attention turns back towards ranking up. This time, our opponent is Ivor, the jacked up fighting type trainer who we met all the way back near the start of the game. But before we can fight Ivor, not only do we have to obtain an absurd number of tickets in the battle zone, we also have to do a quest of helping Ivor find his missing sister. This ends up taking a really long time, taking us all across the city and even into the sewers underground. The highlight of this saga is getting to battle the missing sister, Gwyn, and getting to see her new Mega Chandelure, which has a design that I actually think is pretty cool. Ultimately though, once that's all handled, we're finally clear to face off against the fighting type master in our promotion match. And honestly, this battle was insane. Ivor's team is really strong, and fighting is a pretty awful matchup for me. The fight starts out with us trading Pokemon, as Ivor KOs Camerupt before my Feraligatr quickly gets the revenge kill. Soon after that, Feraligatr is also able to handle the incoming Metacham. So I was feeling pretty confident about our chances, as Ivor was now down to only 2 Pokemon. However, next in is Machamp, and after bulking up, this guy becomes a demigod. It quickly slaps our weakened Feraligatr into the dirt with Brick Break, and unfortunately, our Excadrill that follows suffers the exact same fate, meaning we had now lost half of our team. Despite that, with Machamp at low health, Absol is finally able to finish it off with Aerial Ace. This leaves Ivor with only his ace, Phalanx, which then becomes even more menacing as Phalanx Mega Evolves into this. It looks a lot stronger, and it is. With Brick Break, this behemoth just bonks my Absol into its grave. In response, I had to send out Victory Bell and Mega Evolve. But even then, I'm able to land a Toxic, but not much else by the time my fat poisonous son is KO'd. This leaves us in a 1v1 down to only Abomasnow, who has an awful matchup here. Thankfully though, somehow Abomasnow is just able to survive a hit on low HP before an Earth Power is just enough to KO the Mega Phalanx. That fight was insanely close, and we easily could have lost there. However, Abomasnow clutched up, giving us the win over Ivor, as well as a fresh new promotion to rank D. At this point, the story starts to get a little unhinged, because it turns out Tawny took out a dodgy loan from a group called the Rust Syndicate with the intention of using the money to promote Hotel Z. However, now the interest on the loan has skyrocketed to $1 million, and the Rust Syndicate are now coming after all of Hotel Z to reclaim their debt. AZ starts spewing some garbage about how we should talk through this issue with a seedy loan shark, but personally, I was more thinking about solving this by having my Excadrill burrow through their torsos, but to each their own. Since Tawny is nowhere to be found, to solve this situation, Leader and I head over to the Rust Syndicate HQ. This building straight up looks like an evil lair. This whole visit to the Rust Syndicate base is pretty cutscene heavy, but to summarize, there are 3 things that happen here which I think are worth mentioning. Number 1, the guard at the front raises his eyebrow at me in a way that is both impressive and very disturbing. Number 2, another guard, who is built like a Mega Victory Bell, comes out and battles us with his all-new Mega Skarmory. Please, a moment's silence for all the Skarmory fans in the chat. Game Freak clearly hates you. Number 3, we meet Corbeau, the boss of the Rust Syndicate. He comes off like a seedy, manipulative loan shark. Ultimately though, to pay off Tawny's massive debt, we get conscripted into now doing forced labor for the Rust Syndicate. I'm not sure which is worse, the seedy loan shark or the old man pretending to be a young girl on the internet. I miss when we were just dealing with Uber drivers. We still don't know what our work for the Rust Syndicate will actually involve. In the meantime though, we now have a few new wild zones that I gradually started working my way through, as well as 3 more rogue megas that need to be handled. These fights are all relatively straightforward, and I'm starting to get a little better at handling these rogue fights. Although we do get to see another new mega in Barbarical. Honestly, this thing looks sick, like some kind of cosmic deity. Regardless, our team had gotten pretty strong, and these few rogue fights were all handled comfortably. After the final fight though, we once again get approached by Zygarde and L. This time though, L drops some pretty interesting info. Apparently, this whole mess only started once renovations began on Prism Tower, a project which is being managed by Quasartico. This all implies that maybe the woman who looks like she eats children isn't one of the good guys after all. Regardless, we still don't know anything for sure. So after L disappears back into the sewer, we return back to Hotel Z to regroup. Tawny is supposedly out helping others, leaving me all alone to work off her debt. We then receive a call from Corbeau, who basically threatens me, forcing us to get to work. Our first job is to beat up some troublemakers, and while I was expecting some pretty morally questionable work, in reality, all of the jobs we do for the Rust Syndicate are above board. Things like helping a citizen clear out some wild Pokemon from their house, cleaning up mega crystals from habitat belonging to wild Pokemon, as well as keeping children safe from some creepy battling cult. Honestly, after all these good deeds, I could almost see the Rust Syndicate as good guys, if you ignore the whole predatory loans and forced labor thing they've got going on. During this whole ordeal, we do get some juicy lore. According to Corbeau, that L guy who's been following us around is actually Lysander. Yeah, that clinically insane guy from X and Y. And apparently, it's only been 5 years since the events of X and Y. My god, Lysander, you've aged terribly. I don't think of myself as a hero, but someone has to take action. No one is calling you a hero. You basically forced me into slavery. Anyway, after completing our 3rd mission for Corbeau, we hear an angry crowd forming nearby. Upon investigation, we find Tawny along with Jet. I don't know why these two are together, but the crowd here is about to start a riot. People are unhappy that their homes are being turned into wild zones. And honestly, fair enough, that would suck. Ultimately, thanks to Corbeau and I brutally beating down some random guy in a 2v1, the crowd disperses, allowing Jet and Tawny to safely leave the premises. So, after a day of good deeds, Corbeau summons us to meet with him at the Rust Syndicate HQ. He agrees to remove all of the interest off of Tawny's debt. However, immediately after that, we receive a notification on our phone that our next promotion match is ready. And of course, this time, we're taking on Corbeau. So, after painstakingly collecting all of the required tickets, I returned to the Rust Syndicate HQ. However, I was feeling pretty confident about this fight. Corbeau uses poison types, and we have an Excadrill that will probably just solo. As a result, I was feeling very confident as we charged into Corbeau's office and demanded a battle, ready to claim our rank up. But that's not what happened, because it turns out Corbeau is no pushover. While his lead Arbok is easily dealt with by Mega Excadrill, Corbeau then follows up with Gyarados, which I was not expecting. Obviously, this is a terrible matchup for me, so I switch out my ace Excadrill in place of Absol. Although Absol still isn't able to get the job done, causing us to lose our first Pokemon. Thankfully though, Feraligatr is able to finish it off, putting the dreaded Gyarados to bed. From here, you might think that we're in a dominant spot since it's a 5v2. However, that's not the case, because once Corbeau's Scolipede hits the field, it instantly Mega Evolves into this nightmarish looking thing. Mega Scolipede not only looks cool, but it's also deadly, because this demon bug then proceeded to just rip through the rest of my team with Gunk Shot and Earthquake like it was nothing. And yeah, from what was a 5v2, we had just been handed our first loss of the game. And by no means was that a fluke, because on my next attempt, it went even worse. This time, I couldn't even make it past Gyarados. None of my attacks were landing, as Gyarados would just leap into the air with moves like Bounce and Dragon Rush. I just couldn't hit this thing, so I could only watch on in horror and rage as this cheesy fish just soloed my entire roster. As such, attempt 2 was yet another loss, and clearly I needed to change my approach. This time, to prepare, I taught a few of my Pokemon the move Protect to help us avoid some of Corbo's deadliest attacks. And thanks to this change, on our third attempt, this time things go very differently. I'm still able to take care of Arbok easily, but this time, when Gyarados hits the field, I'm much more prepared. By having Absol block the incoming waterfall, we quickly strike back with Thunderbolt, dishing out enormous damage, ultimately allowing us to take down Gyarados shortly after. And from here, the rest of the fight is much smoother. Victory Bell is able to win the 1v1 against Roserade, leaving us in a 4v1 against Mega Scolipede. It's still a massive threat, but thanks to our numbers advantage, we're gradually able to wear Scolipede down before one last drill run from Excadrill is all we need to finish the fight. With that, we had secured the win, as well as our revenge over Corbo. To top it all off, we're then promoted to rank C, bringing us one step closer to our goal of reaching rank A. Putting all his shady lending practices aside, Corbo is actually a decent guy. For example, after our fight, he turns up at Hotel Z and wants to book a room for the night. This all seems very strange, but on the next day, he thanks Tawny for the good service and leaves her a tip equal to the outstanding loan amount, effectively clearing off her debt as Tawny immediately pays it back. It may have taken a little bit of forced labor, but with Tawny now debt-free, we can turn our attention towards obtaining the next rank. While hanging out with the rest of Team MZ, we then get approached by this maid named LeBon. She works for a group called the Lumio Society of Battling Connoisseurs, or the SBC. Tawny and I then get invited to the next SBC gathering since our battling talent has been recognized. Although, since I don't want anyone to know how poor I am, I get dressed up for the occasion in a brand new fancy outfit. However, Tawny insists on continuing to wear her regular clothes since apparently this jacket belonged to her late mother. But before heading to the SBC event, that last fight against Corbo was really hard, and I expect the game to get even harder from this point on. So I decided to spend some time leveling up by exploring the new wild zones. Catching all of the Pokemon here doesn't take too long, and now we've cleared through all of the 17 wild zones that we've unlocked so far. Now, with a few extra levels on my Pokemon, next we headed for the meeting spot, a place called Hotel Richissimi, and as the name suggests, this place is fancy. It's basically everything that Hotel Z isn't. I mean, at least we have a 3,000-year-old giant freak. Once inside the hotel, there are a lot of people gathered here, including all of our recent high-leveled opponents. However, then we're introduced to this woman, Jacinth. She's the head of the SBC and also happens to be clinically insane. Jacinth goes on to say that she's gathered all of us here to take part in a super tournament. So it looks like we're about to face off against a ton of strong trainers in a tournament. However, that's when we get a call from Vinny. Apparently, there are more rogue megas on the loose, so Tawny and I are forced to withdraw from the tournament. On our way out, LeBon stops us and issues some sort of ominous warning about what might happen if we try to pull out of the tournament. Remember, like I said, this woman is completely insane. Regardless, Tawny and I leave the tournament to go and stop a rogue mega from destroying a hospital or something. Apparently, Tawny had to take a detour to Prism Tower, but regardless, all of Team MZ meets up later to forge a plan. Although, somehow, Jacinth just teleports inside our hotel completely undetected, trying to get us to return to the tournament. However, we instead focus on calming these rogue megas. This time, we're dealing with Altaria, Frostlass, and Venusaur. None of these fights were overly deadly this time around, but we do get to see Frostlass's new Mega form, which looks like some sort of evil ice princess. After each of these fights, Jacinth continues being a pest, now turning up in hologram form. I swear, this better not be that old man pretending to be a young girl again. Having now cleared through another round of rogue megas, we return to Hotel Z, but once we do, we hear a strange noise coming from outside. outside. And once we go outside to investigate, we find these purple walls all around the hotel. Jacinth, being the rational, level-headed person that she is, decided to just completely lock us up as punishment for blowing off her tournament. That seems like a pretty reasonable response to me. Anyway, to escape this house arrest, we have to fight through some SBC goons, as well as LeBon, who has also now become insane too. Great. That's just what we need. Regardless, after clearing through these fights and getting to witness the new Mega Dragalge, we're informed that our next promotion match will be against Jacinth, who we'll have to beat if we want to rise to rank B. So, after obtaining all of the required tickets in the battle zone, we once again get dressed up in our fancy attire before returning to the SBC HQ, Hotel Richissimi. You can just tell that I'm really happy to be back here dealing with all these insane people. Turns out, all the other competitors were being held hostage down in this dungeon, but now that we're back, Jacinth unveils the bracket for her grand tournament, which conveniently puts Jacinth directly into the finals. Putting that blatant favoritism to the side, this tournament has us rematch against 3 of our strongest opponents. Their teams are all still the same, so it's not too difficult for us to claim these wins, gradually making our way through all 3 battles, meaning that now we have to take on Jacinth in the grand final, which also serves as our promotion match. So we approach Jacinth ready for an intense fight. But before we can begin, we're interrupted by Zygarde, closely followed by L. Everyone is shocked to see Lysander still alive. He then declares that Zygarde has shown up to face me in battle. I appreciate you, Zygarde, but I'm kinda in the middle of something here, buddy. Although, how could I possibly say no to a legendary dog with a flashing butt? Zygarde wants to build a strong connection with us through battle. So, hilariously, the tournament gets expanded, adding Zygarde as a shock last-minute competitor. However, before the battle begins, Zygarde cells begin appearing all over the room, and by absorbing all of these, Zygarde is then upgraded into its more powerful 50% form. Although, despite the power boost, our Feraligatr has a really good matchup here, with Ice Fang and Breaking Swipe dishing out big damage, gradually wearing down the legendary dragon. Having lost, Zygarde reverts back to its original form before quickly leaving the arena. Lysander informs us that we still haven't seen Zygarde's true power, and that he'll continue collecting Zygarde's cells. With that taken care of, this leaves us to finally take on Jacinth in our promotion match. Jacinth is carrying 5 Pokemon, making this seem like a very dangerous fight. However, we actually have a really good matchup here. Her team has a lot of fairies and rock types, allowing Feraligatr to decimate her Carbink and Aurorus with liquidation. Our Excadrill is also able to put in work here, finishing off her Gardevoir. During the battle, Jacinth reveals her new Mega Clefable, which does look pretty goofy. However, our Mega Excadrill just embarrasses this pink puffball as a Poison Jab, followed by Metal Claw, give us a very quick KO. So, Jacinth had been decimated, giving us some therapeutic revenge for everything she's put us through. With that, we're promoted to rank B, meaning we're only 1 step away from reaching the top. Against my will, I'm forced to fist bump with this maniac, but that concludes our tournament arc. After returning back to our crummy, far less glamorous hotel, we're treated to a shot of AZ and Floette staring out towards Lumiose City. Ange, you were meant to be a guardian of the city, towering over her and watching her always. A 3,000-year-old desire, a 3,000-year-old mistake. It's a little mysterious, but AZ seems to know more about this current situation than he's letting on. However, the next morning, he explains to Team MZ that Prism Tower is spilling out a feeling of unease that can be felt all across the city. Although, when Tawny suggests taking action, AZ explains that the only one who can control the tower is Mega Floette, and apparently, unleashing Mega Floette requires the power of the strongest Mega Evolution user. So, I guess this little guy gets a Mega too. Good for you, buddy. Ultimately, AZ confirms that if a trainer can prove that they're the strongest of them all, then Floette may respond to their strength. So, our goal is to reach rank A and become the strongest. But Tawny still hasn't given up, declaring her intention to become the strongest and to be the one who saves Lumiose City. Shortly after that, we receive a call from Vinny, who asks us to come and meet him at Quasartico. Once we arrive though, it's actually the CEO, Jet, who wants to speak with us. Jet Jet then goes on to explain a little bit more about what's going on. So, after the events of X and Y, Lumio City was in freefall. As a result, to try and restore the city to its former glory, Quasartico began their urban redevelopment plan, which sought to build a city where people and Pokemon could coexist. However, once they began trying to renovate Prism Tower, they discovered a strange energy being emitted from it. And this energy is what's been attracting wild Pokemon to the city. It's also this energy that, more recently, has been causing rogue mega evolution. After that explanation from Jet, before we leave, she asks Tawny where she got her jacket. To which Tawny explains that it belonged to her now deceased mother. Jet seems to have some sort of realization about this, but doesn't press any further. Between all that dialogue from AZ and Jet, we just learned a whole lot about Lumio City. Prism Tower seems to be the source of this strange energy, but we still don't know why it's happening. With that said, since it feels like we're nearing the climax of the story, I decided to explore the newly unlocked 18th Wild Zone. I was able to clear this area pretty quickly, and was ultimately able to find some cool Pokemon, but none were quite as crazy as this. An Alpha Salamence. This thing nearly ripped my torso in half. However, we somehow managed to take down the dragon and were actually able to catch it. And as awesome as Salamence is, it's about to get even better because now the Quasartico store has a lot more Mega Stones, including the one for Salamence. So I bought it instantly, giving our team a big upgrade with a Mega Alpha Dragon. After returning to Hotel Z, we're informed of another round of rogue Megas that are on the loose. This time, we've got to deal with Mega Tyranitar, as well as two more new Megas in Dragonite and Starmie. The new Dragonite looks pretty cool, but Mega Starmie is a little more abstract. I mean, it's literally just built like Patrick Star, and watching a Starmie run around with two legs just feels so unnatural. Regardless, we're gradually able to work our way through these rogue fights, earning yet another set of Mega Stones along the way. With that taken care of, it's at this point in the game where the story really starts to accelerate. Back at the hotel, while talking with AZ, we receive a notification on our phone for our next promotion match. This time, it's against a mysterious person named Grisham. Obviously, we have no idea who this is, and have to do some investigation to try and uncover our next opponent. This takes quite a long time, but ultimately, Emma reveals that this person is likely a former member of Team Flare, the evil team from X and Y. This leads us to ask Mabel, since she was also a member of Team Flare. Mabel explains that Grisham was a young member of Team Flare back in the day, and with Mabel's guidance, we're able to track him down, as Grisham is revealed to be this guy, the cafe attendant who works at the base of Prism Tower. He claims to be the boss of a group called Team Flare Nouveau. This is all a lot to take in, and it's about to get even heavier, because a short time later, we meet with Grisham at this cafe, which may look familiar, since this is what's left of Lysander Cafe, one of Team Flare's hideouts in X and Y. Grisham then urges us to head down below the cafe into the remains of the Lysander labs to learn all about AZ's secret, implying that AZ's not such a good guy. So we head down into the labs, and down here we have to solve some puzzles, as well as battle some strong wild Pokemon blocking the way. Eventually though, after wandering through the labs for quite a while, we finally reach the bottom floor. At this point in the game, there are multiple cutscenes with Lysander, Grisham, and AZ that gradually explain everything that's happened. However, to make this easier to follow and less repetitive, I'm just going to summarize these three conversations into one simple chronological timeline. Let me explain. 3,000 years ago, a war was unfolding. Many people and Pokemon lost their lives, including AZ's Floette, who was sent to the front lines. Heartbroken and distraught, AZ then made a device that was capable of granting life, which he then used to revive Floette. However, still angry at the world for what had happened, AZ then took his life-granting device and modified it into a weapon of destruction, which he ultimately used to end the war. But Floette, realizing that her life was only revived by sacrificing the lives of others, decided to abandon AZ, leaving him to wander the earth alone for 3,000 years. During this time, AZ was asked to make another device, and that is what Orange is, a device designed by AZ to share eternal life hidden within the core of Prism Tower. 5 years ago, Lysander took control of the ultimate weapon and sought to use it to cull the human population. However, during X and Y, those plans were put to an end. When Lysander attempted to blow up the Team Flare secret base, ultimately, it was Zygarde who saved Lysander from certain death. Which is why, despite having now lost most of his memories, L serves to support Zygarde and its desire to protect Kalos. In terms of the current problem we're now facing with all these rogue megas, AZ believes that Team Flare using the ultimate weapon 5 years ago also caused Orange, the device in Prism Tower, to begin leaking large quantities of mega power, which, as we already know, attracts wild Pokemon to the city and also triggers rogue evolution. AZ then goes on to say that only the strongest Mega Evolution user, along with Mega Floette, are the only ones who can end this disaster by reaching the control panel in the tower. In the case of Grisham, he wants us to give him Floette so that he can be the one to save the city and ultimately restore the reputation of the former Team Flare members. However, Team MZ are also determined to be the ones to stop this looming disaster. So I know that was a lot, but now the stage is set for the end of this story. Our goal is to prove ourselves as the strongest trainer and then work with Floette to save the city. And to do that, first we need to defeat Grisham. So, after collecting all 45,000 tickets, I prepared my team for battle before charging towards the Nouveau Cafe, ready to take on Grisham and earn our promotion to rank A. I was expecting Grisham to use fire types since he has a Charizard standing directly outside his cafe. However, that's not the case, as Grisham has a full team of 6 diverse Pokemon. And let me tell you, this fight was wild. Grisham leads with Pangoro, as I lead with Camerupt. However, Grisham perfectly blocks my flamethrower with Protect, meaning that Camerupt just isn't able to get the job done, falling to Crunch and Brick Break. Thankfully, Salamence is able to quickly get the trade. By using Fly and dropping in from the heavens, Salamence evens things up to a 5-on-5. Grisham sends in Tyranitar next, and since I need to keep Salamence healthy, I switch out into Feraligatr. This Tyranitar dishes out insane damage, but then we have a real anime moment, as Feraligator's Liquidation and Tyranitar's Stone Edge both land at the exact same time, leading to a double knockout. At this point, we start to pull some momentum as Victory Bell overpowers Malamar with a quad effective lunge. And after some switching, Salamence once again drops in from space as a Fly decimates Grisham's Pyroar. Now it was down to a 4v2. However, Grisham then sends in his own Salamence. Obviously, our weakened dragon can't last long, so I tried sending in a Bomber Snow to finish it off with Icy Wind, but once again, both of our attacks land at the exact same time, leading to another double knockout. As a result, Grisham was now down to only his ace, Charizard, who instantly evolves into Charizard X. I tried to have Victory Bell land a Toxic, but Grisham protects. Now my plan is out the window, as Charizard annihilates my Victory Bell with a Flare Blitz. And so, now it was down to a 1v1. Mega Charizard X against my Mega Excadrill. Thankfully for us though, Excadrill has a great matchup here, with a super effective dig burying the Fire-type dragon into the dirt. That fight was crazy, with 2 double KOs and a 1v1. But in the end, Grisham had been defeated, and more importantly, now we had earned our promotion to rank A. Gracious in defeat, Grisham concedes that I'm the strongest and asks us to take care of Prism Tower and Lumio City. However, later on, back in Hotel Z, Tawny makes a shocking announcement that she's also made it to rank A2. This creates a dilemma about who really is the strongest. Regardless, after celebrating our promotions, Team MZ eventually heads to bed. Until a huge explosion goes off, waking up all of Team MZ. We then head to the roof to see what's going on, only to be met by this. Prism Tower now radiating with mega energy. AZ then declares that it won't be long before the tower goes rogue, which will cause an explosion of mega energy across the entire city. AZ's body is too weak to make the journey, but the rest of Team MZ, along with Floette, decide to head out to investigate. Once we arrive at the base of Prism Tower, Vinny confirms our fears that the tower is continuing to emit energy, and if we don't stop it, the whole city will be overcome with rogue megas. Vinny then asks who out of Tawny and I will be the one to enter the tower. However, since we're both rank A trainers, it's decided that the only way to know who the strongest really is to have a battle. While it does seem kind of insane to battle now, given this looming disaster, ultimately we have no choice. So we step up to face Tawny, our Team MZ rival. The battle starts out really well, as Salamence is able to quickly overpower Tawny's Meowstick, as well as dish out big damage to the Goodra that comes in after that, before our Ace Dragon is finished off by Blizzard. But after Abomasnow quickly gets the trade with Icy Wind and Giga Drain, I was feeling very confident about our chances. But then Avalugg hits the field. I was hoping to take this thing down with Camerup's Flamethrower, but Tawny blocks it with Protect. And this is awful, and I was about to be punished, as a Stone Edge and Icicle Crash instantly crush our Camel. And while Abomasnow is able to deal some decent chip damage, Avalugg continued ripping through my team, taking out both Abomasnow and Victory Bell. Eventually, Feraligatr is able to finish off the walking iceberg, leaving us in a 2v3. We then trade Pokemon, as Feraligatr quickly handles Emboar with a Liquidation and Aqua Jet. Tawny's Manectric then finishes off our weakened Water type, before Mega Excadrill takes care of that with a super effective Dig. Once again, we were down to a 1v1, but this time, Tawny sends out Meganium, who instantly Mega Evolves, gaining a lot more flowers and a lot more power. However, this is just such a bad matchup. Meganium's Leech Seed and Giga Drain gives it a lot of recovery, and ultimately, Excadrill just can't overpower it, falling at the hands of an Earth Power. And so, once again, we had lost. But something strange happens. Instead of the game forcing us to rematch or sending us back to a Pokemon Center, the story actually continues despite losing. As a result, it's decided that Tawny is the strongest trainer in Lumio City, and as a result, Tawny is the one chosen to enter the tower. AZ then calls us, apologizing for not being able to be here, but ultimately asks us to safeguard the people and Pokemon of Lumio City. With that, Floette hands Tawny the Mega Stone, which Tawny then activates, summoning Mega Floette. Tawny and Floette then take flight, heading upwards and into the control center of Prism Tower. Once Tawny places her hand on the control panel, Floette begins to glow and slowly ascends upwards through the tower. The energy surrounding the tower then starts to fade, and things seem to be resolved. However, then there's a big explosion of mega energy, with the tower revealing a new, horrifying form, seemingly having fused with Mega Floette, as it looks like some sort of mechanical, overgrown flower. Down on the ground, the remaining members of Team MZ traverse through the rubble to try and figure out what's going on. Soon after, we receive a call from Tawny, who's safe inside the tower thanks to being protected by Mega Floette. However, she's stuck inside the tower and can't really do anything to control the tower whatsoever. But from up in the tower, she's able to spot Zygarde on one of the rooftops. So my plan is to meet with Zygarde to try and stop this disaster. Although, there's a problem. Due to that big release of Mega Energy, now the streets are overrun with rogue Megas, making it far too dangerous to traverse the city. However, then we're joined by holograms of all of our top rivals from the ZA Royale. Ultimately, everyone agrees to help, and we form a plan of attack. So we begin traversing the city, crossing the debris, and traveling across rooftops. At certain intervals, we're stopped by rogue Megas, but that's where our ZA competitors step in to help, as we join forces to fight off hordes of Megas. This also involves some pretty crazy stuff, like a scaffolding obstacle course, as well as climbing up a human ladder, courtesy of the Rust Syndicate. After a while, eventually, we finally make it to Zygarde. The two of us then continue climbing together until we're standing right beneath the tower. Shortly after, Elle arrives with 99 of Zygarde's cells, and adding the one in my backpack, that's enough to fully charge up Zygarde, as the legendary Pokemon finally reaches its full power 100% form. Zygarde then begins attacking the tower, leaving us on the ground to fight against the flowers at the base. This fight is really tough, as these flowers hit so hard. My team was quickly crumbling, but after taking out both flowers, Zygarde is also able to land a hit, dishing out big damage against the tower. Back on the ground, the flowers then regenerate and the fight continues. All combined, we have to take down these flowers a total of 3 times, and they are just absurdly strong. I'm even forced into using max revives just to prevent my team from getting completely wiped. Eventually though, after my team had struggled its way to defeating the 3rd set of flowers, Zygarde unleashes its big final attack, Core Enforcer, decimating the tower and taking it down for good. So, Orange Floette's rampage had come to an end. All of the top ZA trainers gather together to celebrate the win, which is followed by a call from Tawny, who says that all that's left to be done is for Mega Floette to take control of Orange. However, then the tower begins to glow before charging up a massive amount of energy. If Orange uses the Light of Ruin, the result would be disaster. This all looks very grim, but then something inside our bag starts to shake. This turns out to be a pebble, the exact same one given to us by Zygarde after we first fought. This pebble then reveals itself to actually be Zygarde's Megastone. And by using this for the first time ever, we get to witness Mega Zygarde. This thing looks insane. Suddenly, Orange fires off its Light of Ruin, which then gradually begins descending towards Lumiose City. However, Mega Zygarde steps in, unleashing its new attack, Nile Light. After Zygarde fires this off from its giant cannon, the two attacks collide and explode, causing a shower of lights to fall across Lumiose City. With that, the tower is now finally subdued. Tawny descends, along with Floette, who seems hurt but is ultimately alive. After which, we're shown a shot of AZ, who expresses that he will be eternally grateful for his friends in Team MZ. The credits then begin to roll, accompanied by a montage of everyone working together to help restore and rebuild Lumiose City. But after the credits finish rolling, there's one final scene. All of Team MZ standing before the grave of AZ, whose 3,000-year story had finally come to an end. Together, Team MZ say their final goodbye before all returning home together to Hotel Z. And so, that concludes the entire experience of Pokémon Legends ZA. Jump into this video next for more Pokemon content. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are about this game and whether you're enjoying it. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.